Many people believe they already know the Qur'an. They have heard verses quoted, seen translations shared online, and listened to opinions spoken confidently. And yet, when the Qur'an is mentioned, hesitation quietly enters the heart. Some feel it is too complex. Some feel it is too harsh. Some feel it belongs to another time. These feelings are not born from the Qur'an itself. They are born from misunderstandings that were never gently corrected. The Qur'an did not come down into a world of peace and comfort. It was revealed into chaos, injustice, confusion, and moral collapse. And yet, its first audience did not say, "This book is impossible to understand." They said something far more dangerous. They said, "This book changes hearts." That was the real fear. One of the most common misconceptions is that the Qur'an is only for scholars, that it is locked behind Arabic grammar, classical commentaries, and academic study. But Allah himself tells us otherwise. He says, "And we have certainly made the Qur'an easy for remembrance. So is there anyone who will remember?" In Surah Al-Qamar, verse 17. This verse is repeated 4 times in the same surah, not for emphasis alone, but for reassurance. The Qur'an is deep, yes, but it is also accessible. A child can be moved by it. A sinner can be guided by it. A broken heart can be healed by it. You do not need to master Arabic to feel Allah speaking to you. You need sincerity and humility. Another misconception quietly damages many hearts. The belief that the Qur'an is harsh and threatening, filled only with warnings and punishments. This idea often comes from hearing verses without context or mercy stripped from their surroundings. The Qur'an does warn, but it warns the way a loving parent warns a child running toward fire. Allah introduces himself repeatedly as Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. In Surah Az-Zumar, verse 53, Allah says, "Say, O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins." This is not the language of a distant judge. This is the voice of mercy, calling the guilty back home. Some assume the Qur'an only talks about rituals and laws, disconnected from real life. But the Qur'an speaks about fear, grief, betrayal, hope, patience, and inner struggle. It speaks about loneliness in the story of Yusuf, abandoned by his brothers yet protected by Allah at every stage. It speaks about grief in the tears of Yaqub until his eyes turned white with sorrow, as mentioned in Surah Yusuf, verse 84. It speaks about anxiety when Musa stood before the sea with an army behind him and said, "No, indeed, with me is my Lord. He will guide me." In Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verse 62, these are not abstract stories. These are mirrors held up to the human soul. Another misconception is that the Qur'an contradicts science or logic. The Qur'an was never revealed as a science textbook, yet it repeatedly invites reflection, observation, and reasoning. Allah says, "Do they not reflect?" Again and again. In Surah Fussilat, verse 53, Allah says, "We will show them our signs and horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth." The Qur'an does not fear knowledge. It welcomes it. What it rejects is arrogance dressed as intellect. Many also believe the Qur'an is outdated, that it addressed a tribal desert society and cannot guide a modern world. But the Qur'an does not speak to one culture. It speaks to the human condition. Envy has not changed. Greed has not changed. Pride has not changed. Love, fear, hope, and regret have not changed. That is why the Qur'an remains timeless. Allah says in Surah Al-An'am, verse 38, "We have not neglected in the book a thing." Guidance is not outdated because human nature is not outdated. There is also a painful misconception that the Qur'an condemns questions, that faith means silence and obedience without understanding. But the Qur'an records the questions of the angels, the questions of the prophets, and even the questions of ordinary believers. Ibrahim asked Allah to show him how the dead are brought to life, not because he doubted, but because he sought reassurance, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 260. Allah did not rebuke him. Allah guided him. Islam does not fear sincere questions. It fears arrogance that refuses answers. Some people feel the Qur'an only speaks to the righteous, not to those who have fallen repeatedly. But the Qur'an was revealed to transform sinners into saints. Umar ibn al-Khattab set out to kill the Prophet Muhammad and returned as one of the greatest offenders of Islam after hearing verses from Surah Taha. The Qur'an does not wait for perfection. It creates it through struggle. Another misunderstanding is that the Qur'an was revealed all at once, frozen in time. In reality, it was revealed over 23 years, responding to real events, pain, victories, losses, and growth. Allah says in Surah Al-Furqan, verse 32, "And those who disbelieve say, why was the Qur'an not revealed to him all at once? Thus we have revealed it gradually to strengthen your heart." The Qur'an understands human pacing. It understands healing takes time. Some think the Qur'an is only about the afterlife, neglecting the dunya, but the Qur'an teaches balance. It teaches responsibility, justice, honesty, and excellence in character. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The best of you are the best in character," narrated in Sahih Bukhari. The Qur'an builds individuals who benefit society, not escape it. There's also the misconception that guidance comes only from reading translations. Translations are doors, but the Qur'an itself is more than words. It is recited, listened to, reflected upon. Allah says in Surah Al-Raf, verse 204, "When the Qur'an is recited, listen to it attentively and be silent so that you may receive mercy." Mercy is tied not only to understanding, but to presence. Perhaps the most dangerous misconception is that the Qur'an is someone else's responsibility, that scholars will preserve it, teachers will explain it, and we can remain distant. But on the day of judgment, the Prophet Muhammad will say, "O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Qur'an as something abandoned," as mentioned in Surah Al-Furqan, verse 30. Abandonment is not only physical neglect. It is reading without reflection, hearing without action, knowing without living. The Qur'an was not revealed to decorate shelves or fill audio backgrounds. It was revealed to walk beside you in your hardest moments. It was revealed to correct you gently, warn you sincerely, and lift you lovingly. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The Qur'an is proof for you or against you," narrated in Sahih Muslim. It is neutral until we choose our relationship with it. When you approach the Qur'an without fear, without assumptions, without inherited misconceptions, something changes. You stop asking, "What does this book say?" and you begin asking, "What does Allah want from me right now?" That is when guidance becomes personal. The Qur'an does not demand perfection. It asks for honesty. It does not expect instant transformation. It invites consistent return. And it does not speak only to the mind. It speaks to the heart that is willing to listen. If you ever felt distant from the Qur'an, it was never because it pushed you away. It was always waiting, exactly where you left it, ready to speak again. And when it does not shout. It whispers truth in a world full of noise.